Hey guys, this is Wiley. I'm here in Biloxi with Chef Austin at White Pillars. And those of you who don't know, Chef Austin was just nominated for his first of hopefully many James Beard Awards this year. He's only 32 years old, so that's quite the feat. But on a personal note, I love this restaurant. My wife and I, we had our rehearsal dinner here last summer. Planning on having our first anniversary dinner here next month. We've had lots of takeout from here in the last couple months. Eaten many duck fat fries over the last couple of years. But part of the reason we love this restaurant is obviously Chef Austin is about as nice as it gets. And anyone that's been in here more than once has met him when he comes around and says hello. But the food is the freshest food down here in the Mississippi Gulf Coast. If you're eating seafood at the restaurant, it probably came out of the water that day. Or it did, I'm sure, but I'm not even sure Chef Austin owns a can opener for the rest of the ingredients. But they've been doing a great job of cooking for God knows how many people during these last couple months. And so with that, we just need to keep supporting him and all of our local restaurants. But I'll let you take it away, Chef.
Thank you, Wiley. All right, guys. First off, thanks to Rapscan guys for having me on here. Thanks to Chef Asins for watching. Doesn't make me nervous at all. It's all good. So we're going to make a very simple dish, but one that's pretty near and dear to our hearts here at White Pillars. There is a version of this dish on the menu at all times. And the reason that I wanted to do it for this is that's the cool part about it, is that you can substitute ingredients. You could use a different type of pasta. You can use a different protein, and all these flavors, they should still all work together. So I figure there's some things that I'm going to use that you probably don't have readily available. Sorry, but you can substitute all kinds of stuff in, and we're going to talk about that as we go. So I'm going to touch on a few of the ingredients that we're going to be using here on this one today. And then we're going to kind of just work through the process of it. It's not a difficult dish, and it's not a very long dish, so we should have plenty of time for questions and stuff in between. Hopefully I can field questions and stuff as we go as well. So we're going to do, we call this our Gulf shrimp pasta. So obviously we've got some Gulf shrimp. One of the cool things about working down here in Biloxi is that we get fresh shrimp literally daily. And they're great. They're delicious. They're from Mississippi waters, and they literally couldn't be any fresher. So we're going to do with this pasta, we're going to do a few local seasonal vegetables as well. This is what I'm talking about, where you can kind of substitute it in whatever you'd like, and you know, whatever you have on hand. We're going to do a few beans. We've got some green snap peas here, and then we've got some dragon's tongue beans as well. We're going to start with some shallots. And a little bit of chopped thyme. We've also got some patty pan squash, some cherry tomatoes. I just happened to be able to get in the woods yesterday and find some chanterelles. So we're going to put that in there as well. Obviously, you could substitute in any sort of mushroom that you might find at your grocery store or something like that, or get out in the woods and find some chanterelles. We're going to be using Grana Padano cheese in ours. You could use any type of Parmesan-esque cheese. We've got lots of fresh herbs. That's always important for any of our dishes, but especially this pasta. We've already chopped a little bit of parsley. I've got some fennel that's just out of our garden, some parsley flowers, a little bit of oregano flowers. Just happened to be what was growing right outside the door. So same thing, just, you know, whatever's fresh, looks good. Fresh herbs are obviously better than dried herbs, but dried herbs would be better than no herbs. For the pasta itself, we're going to be using some tagliatelle. Ours is fresh, house-made pasta, but you could substitute in. Fettuccine is essentially the same thing as tagliatelle. You could even do spaghetti or whatever you have in your pantry. You don't have to make a special trip to the store. All pasta needs lemon, so we've got some lemon. We're going to talk about kind of a cool way to use that lemon too. So we're going to get going here, and I'm going to start kind of chopping some of this stuff, getting our mise en place in order. And trying to talk as we go. So I've got a shallot. I cut it in half. Really only need probably half of this bad boy. action shot. All right, so some finely chopped shallot. I'm gonna leave right there on the board. I don't like picking and chopping thyme, so I did that ahead of time, but that's on here. We're gonna take this squash. We're just gonna cut everything that's on this dish. You kind of just want it to be spoon size so that it works when you're eating it and you're not cutting stuff up. So you can cut this up however you want. You can slice it or something like that, but I'm gonna cut it into little kind of wedges here. Other cool thing about this dish is that we're going to build this one. We're going to build it all in the same pan. I've got saute pan here, butter to go with that. I do have pasta water going here. Obviously, you would need that to cook the pasta. But it's kind of minimal cookware so that you're not tearing your whole kitchen up to try to make this dish. Now, if you were going to use something like carrots or something like that, they're a little bit hardier than squash and cherry tomatoes and stuff like that, then you might want to pre-roast it. We do that like in the fall and winter time when we've got a lot of beautiful root vegetables. We'll roast those off ahead of time, and then they'll just go in the pan kind of at the last minute. So we've got the squash cut up. I'm just going to quarter these cherry tomatoes. Pretty much all of this produce right here that we're working through right now is from Gavin Deacle. So give a shout out to him. Maybe he'll watch this on Facebook later. For guys that are local watching this, he sets up at the Ocean Springs Farmers Market every Saturday morning, and his stuff is the best. So you can get it from him. So these are the chanterelles. I'll just hold that out for the camera because they're beautiful. And I just think it's such a cool thing that only comes around certain times a year. Just gets me very excited. This one is probably my favorite. That's a Cinnabar chanterelle, so a nice dark orange color. Doesn't look like.
Hey Chef, as you cut, a question comes in asking where you're finding these chanterelles. It seems like there's a go-to magic spot that you're finding all these.
Well, so these are from my parents' farm. I went this weekend for a couple of days just to get out of town, and this time of year we always check. So they they'll grow as far south as the coast. They're less prevalent here because there's so much sand in the soil, but kind of from here up all the way through the United States, this time of year, chanterelles grow wild. You can find them like in Whole Foods every now and then, but other than that, probably not something you're going to find in the grocery store too often. As we're talking about chanterelles, I'm cutting up the dragon tongue beans, and I'm going to cut up a couple of these snap beans too. Again, just kind of cutting all these into bite-sized pieces. I'll hold them out for the camera so you can see. Just bite-sized pieces to make it easy to eat. And this, for right now, we're just making a single portion of this dish, but you could easily just up all of these amounts and make dinner for your family, kind of one pan and be done with it. So I think that's one of the things that's really cool about this dish. All right, so now we've got all of the vegetables cut. These are all going to go in the pan. We're going to saute them with the shrimp here in just a minute. Before we do that, we're going to quick cure this, a little bit of this lemon. So I kind of think this is one of the things that sets this dish apart a little bit. It's going to give you a nice briny, tart pop in the middle of this dish. It really freshens it up and brightens it. Just tastes delicious. So you're going to want to cut this as thin as you can. Nice sharp knife is very important. You can do it on a mandolin if you have one of those. I cut a few slices here. It's way more than we're going to need for this, but just kind of show how thin that is. We're going to take it in our pasta water here. Before we do that, you always want to make sure that you season your pasta water heavily, lots of salt. We're going to just dunk it right in here for just a second. So those lemons are going to go down in that boiling salted water for about 30 seconds. That's just going to kind of tone down that bitterness of the pith just a little bit. Going to get them nice and tender. They come out. I got a little cold ice water right here. Dunk them in that. Into a mixing bowl. We're going to hit them with a little more salt and then just a little bit of sugar. Now at the restaurant, we'll throw these in the cryovac machine and cryovac them real hard, which kind of just infuses that flavor real quick. Not everybody has one of those though, and I understand that, and they're going to be perfectly delicious just like this. You kind of give them a little toss in the salt and sugar. We're going to put those aside because it's kind of garnish right at the end. Now we're going to start building our pasta dish. We're going to start it off with a little bit of butter. First things that'll go in be our shallots. You'll have to excuse my satellite burner, doesn't heat up quite as quickly as the ones on the stove. Let me get that pan hot. Steven, does anybody else have any questions while we heat this pan up?
I don't see any currently. I guess it shows how well of it.
I like it. That's good. Keep it in.
Shows that you're doing a great job explaining.
Getting hot now. All right, so we're gonna hit that with that fresh chopped thyme. If you don't have thyme growing right outside your door, you should plant some. I think I put it in probably every dish that we make. It's just a good base. Now, the important part of this dish is you're going to layer these flavors in there, and that's what's going to give you that delicious final product at the end. So we got our shallots sweated, got the thyme in there. Now we're going to start hitting it with the rest of these vegetables. So squash is going in, chanterelles are going in, throw in our peas. We're going to hold back the cherry tomatoes until right at the end. Gulf shrimp going in. Already starting to smell good. I'm just going to give this a few little tosses here. Salt and pepper. Again, I always say you want to season your dishes as you go. You don't ever want to wait to the very end to season. Just a little bit at a time, so you can adjust it at the end. But if you're trying to season from nothing at the very end of the dish, it's really easy to miss that mark. So you kind of season, you build those layers of flavor as you go. Kind of see how we're going here. You can see the shrimp are starting to get a little pink. The vegetables are starting to get tender. I'm going to turn it down while we cook our pasta.
Chef, on that vegetable note, I got a question. It was asking for the small squash. What was the proper name you used again for that?
So that was patty pan squash.
Thank you.
Now, any kind of squash would work. Crook neck, zucchini, any of that stuff would be good. So our pasta's cooking. Give this a few tosses. Now we're going to hit it. Cherry tomatoes. Just going to give it a nice little bright pop. Now we're using grana padano, but like I said, you can use plenty of other hard cheeses. Be good in this. We're going to hit this in here. This is kind of going to be the basis for the sauce. Just a little cheese. We're also going to squeeze a little bit of lemon. We got this half lemon left over from what we sliced earlier. I'm going to hit it with some lemon juice. Welcome, blame Chris Hastings for that. I can't help but put lemons in many different ways and fashions in everything I cook now. All right.
So
So
tell them why, Austin.
because the acidity is going to accentuate the flavor. It's going to make everything else that's in the dish pop. It's going to make you be able to taste the other flavors even better. And it's going to give us balance. All right, so since we're using fresh pasta, it cooks really fast, but obviously if you're using dry, you want to follow the directions of whatever they are on your pasta container. We're gonna come in this right here now. So I'm cooking in a basket in this pasta water, and I'm doing that for a reason because we actually want some of the pasta water in the dish. So we're gonna come right over. We're not gonna completely strain that out. We're gonna let that's gonna kind of be our sauce there. So the starches from the pasta, they're gonna bring the sauce together. You're not gonna add any, jumped out. You're not gonna add any cream or anything like that to this. It's gonna kind of thicken on its own. We're really almost there, guys. I'm telling y'all, this is a very easy dish. A little bit of fresh parsley, because parsley makes it fancy. And then we're going to start our plating. We're going to do a little garnish. I'm going to add just a tiny bit more butter to this. Nice and creamy. These beautiful Satterfield pottery plates. Taste this and make sure that we're doing what we think we're doing. It's delicious. All right. We're going to kind of put the pasta down on this plate and then put everything else on top. You got those nice shrimp, not overcooked, just barely there, nice and pink. All these nice vegetables and everything. It's at least a colorful dish. And it looks a lot harder than it is. I hope I'm not telling too many secrets here, but it's really pretty easy. Something you could impress your friends with, kind of thing. I think you worked really hard all day in the kitchen. Really, it only took you about 15 minutes. All right, so we've got that down. We're gonna come back to these lemons. I like to cut them into quarters just because I think they're kind of pretty like that. We're just gonna put those on scattered on this plate here. I'm going to take a little bit more of that cheese right over the top with it. And then we're going to tear just a little bit of these herbs over the top too. So this is bronze fennel from our garden right here. Again, just any nice fresh herb would be good on this. It's just going to bring some freshness and some brightness to the dish. Some parsley flowers. As it's spring, a lot of the herbs are flowering right now, which is even more fun to use. And a little bit of oregano flowers. All right. Here we have it, Gulf shrimp pasta, fresh vegetables and herbs. You can see that. All right, so that's our dish. Anybody have any questions, concerns, comments?
I got an important one in there, Austin, from Gary asking, what wine are we drinking with this dish?
I liked the chef's answer when somebody asked that last week. That wine is quite subjective, and drinking what you enjoy is always the most important thing. But I would pair a nice bright white wine with this, Sauvignon Blanc, Pinot Blanc, something like that. If you go to your local wine store and tell them that you want to pair with something that's got a lot of citrus and seafood in it, they could probably help you with that. But that would be where I would start. Light white.
So Austin has that knife you've got there. Why don't you tell everybody about that knife of yours?
So this is my baby here. Been with me for a while. This is it's Bob Kramer edition knife, not a custom Bob Kramer, but a Bob Kramer edition knife that my mother gave me when I graduated from culinary school about 10 years ago. Went with me all the way through the hot kitchen and down to New Orleans, and still very sharp.
I remember that knife well. It's good to see it.
Good knife. Sure.
Chef Austin, I have a question from Mary saying, if you were cooking a meal for your family, what would be on your go-to menu, I guess, to decipher between, cooking for your restaurant and then taking it home and cooking for your family?
So my family gets the privilege of eating a lot of things that we might have eaten at the restaurant also. Stuff like this is something that I definitely cook at home. But I tend to, when I'm at home, I may be testing new recipes and things like that. So it really just depends. I don't have many like go-to recipes. I love Chef's roasted chicken from last week. But yeah, it's a mixed bag at my house. We eat a lot of different things. And my wife has a very astute palate. And so she's usually the first line of defense for a new dish. She gets to taste it, try it out.
That's awesome. I have probably a simple question. For us, some people say, leave work at the office. So I was curious on your side, when you go home, who does the cooking at home? Is it a continuation of yourself or does your wife jump in?
During the week, I usually get home pretty late. So my wife Tracy does a lot of cooking, and she's very good in the kitchen. She's not professionally trained, but she's definitely makes delicious food. We also have a 4-year-old, so sometimes it's quite simple, but that doesn't mean it can't be delicious. I cook a lot on the weekends. I know it probably surprises a lot of people, but I think that Chef Hastings can probably attest to that. If you got it in you, you just can't really turn it off. So I cook at the house too, and on the weekends or our weekends, Monday and Tuesdays, and sometimes we'll cook a lot, and then we'll have leftovers and stuff like that, which is always fun.
So I guess a question, maybe me personally, I've certainly been to White Pillars and know the experience, but maybe for those on the call that haven't been to White Pillars, what would be kind of the experience that, that they would come in and be treated to, if they were to come next time that they're down on the coast?
Well, we try to present upscale food in a comfortable environment with top-notch service. It's kind of been my experience that really a restaurant is judged on 3 things, and it's the ambiance, the food, and the service. I feel like our ambiance here is pretty good. It's those that haven't been here. We're in a restored mansion built in 1905. It's been on right here on the Gulf Coast for 115 years. It's a very beautiful building. My wife was hands-on with the renovations, and I'll give her credit. It's quite stunning on the inside. Then we try to present thoughtful, local seasonal cuisine. So, meaningful food that's sourced locally and seasonally. And then we spend a lot of time training our service staff so that without it feeling stuffy, you feel well taken care of. So that to me, that's the kind of the 3 pillars that we try to, no pun intended, build our restaurant experience on.
And I guess I would be remiss if I didn't ask. I know, Chef Hastings is on the call, and you talked some history last week with those that joined us. For those that are new on the call, just maybe, something that you've learned from Chef that stuck with you, through all the years, or just any tidbit to y'all's relationship.
Yeah, we don't have time to cover everything that I learned from him. I mean, I think we talked last week a little bit about, like running a restaurant and that kind of thing. Obviously, was very important. And for those that weren't on that one last week, I feel like it's what gave us the confidence to step out and do this on our own. Also, whenever we decided to do it, we had the full support of Chef Natty, which was really awesome. Flavor profiles are a huge thing, and then just kind of the approach to food. I tell people all the time in the kitchen, it's something that I heard a lot from Chef Hastings, but in that everything should have a purpose on the plate. Whenever you're choosing ingredients and things that are going into a dish, it should add and not take away. I think that's something that we try to live by here. Sometimes less is more. And if you've got really great ingredients, you can allow them to speak for themselves. We try to take it, everyone should know where their food comes from. In this world where farm to table is a trendy word, that's kind of where people start. You should know where your food comes from. But we like to try to take it one step farther and know who our food comes from. We've actually built relationships with a lot of our purveyors, our farmers, shrimpers, and all that kind of stuff. And when you have a real relationship with them, they can tell you, hey, this is awesome. This isn't so good. This is what's coming up, and it makes it a lot easier in here when you start with top-notch products. You have to do less things to really great ingredients. That answer your question?
Absolutely. Thank you there. Do we have any other further questions from the group? I know Ben Hunter jumped on. I know you're a foodie yourself. You anything for your friend Chef Austin here?
What was that?
Ben just says everything you make is wonderful and reasonably priced, and he loves your pasta.
Thank you.
Great job today, Austin.
Thanks, Jeff. Appreciate it.
You were also a fantastic student, and not only that, but you and your wife have made a restaurant that very, very accurately expresses who you both are. And I think that's one of the most important things about a restaurant too. You step into your restaurant, it feels so good. It's so of you and Tressie and your hope and the vision for that restaurant. You should be very proud of it. It's I see a lot of restaurants that open up and they look a lot like other restaurants that they may have worked at before, and a little too much. You guys built an absolute unique space, and your cuisine is your cuisine, and your hospitality is your hospitality. You should be very proud. You should have made the short list. Just saying.
Thanks, Jeff. Hey, there's always next year.
That's right.
That's it. Let me see if I can talk Chef Summerall into letting me.
I figured somebody's
going to eat
that.
this, right? Well, we appreciate everyone tuning in today.
Awesome. Thank you, Chef. Much appreciated.